Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen. I don't, John, I think it's impossible to have a better educated guest than the one we have right here.
Yeah, man.
I mean, the amazing institute known as Archbishop Wood High School in Warminster, Pennsylvania, Temple University. And Colin, you didn't go to Mount Carmel, did you? Did you go to public school? Where'd you go?
I went to Holly Kong Middle School.
That's right.
Cold Spring Elementary, shout out. Holly Kong Middle School. And then instead of walking across the street to Central Bucks East, I waltzed my way down York Road to the finer institute of Archbishop Wood.
There we go.
Now we have a NBA champion, Colin Gillespie, too. I mean, we're on fire.
Yeah.
Funk, Penn State sharpshooter, folks. He's going to play in the summer league in Denver as well. So things are trending in the right direction. I think we have 5 or 6 NFL guys. So it's been fun.
Yeah,
all kind of around our group there. It was a lot of fun.
Now, Colin, do you know, because I did not know. Now, Mark went to Temple, obviously, but he went to Archbishop Wood. But obviously, he's older than you. So did you already know this? I did not know this.
Yes.
Okay.
Listen,
So you have tremendous success from Archbishop Wood. You got morning radio hosts. You got NFL tight ends. My God.
I saw something the other day, and it's silly season here on social media.
It's always silly season.
No, but this is really bad because there's nothing to talk about. So we have Howard Eskin saying Joel Embiid's not a top 5 athlete in the city of Philadelphia. He may be a top 5 athlete on planet Earth. Like literally, like when you talk about pure definition of an athlete,
yes,
it's like
an
that
athlete,
guy and like LeBron and like Usain Bolt, right? So, but someone said the other day, Kyle Pitts, they put a GIF up. Is Kyle Pitts the biggest bust tight end of all time? First off, you have to be a bust to be a bust tight end. Just like ridiculous. And I'm like telling everybody on my show, I'm like, don't react to it. Of course, I'm reacting to it.
Yeah.
Well,
I say don't react to it. Like I was talking about TJ Edwards since he came on, because TJ is a guy who
stud.
He was undrafted coming out of Wisconsin, but he's a great college player. But he ran a 4.87, so he got labeled. You know how that works. He had a bad day. He never ran a 4.87 in his life, probably the day before, the day after. And then he improved himself. He worked on his body. And I got Eagles fans. He turns into this great player, and I got Eagles fans saying, oh, he had one good year. I mean, the guy started 4 games as a rookie. By year 2, he was, you say what you want about PFF. By year 2, he was top 20. Then he was like 11. Then last year was like 6. He gets paid by the Bears, but he leaves, so now he stinks.
My whole thing is, where are these other guys at that are really good?
Exactly.
Like, if he stinks,
yeah.
Where are these other? It's so hard to make it in this league, and everyone says, "Oh, whatever." It is virtually impossible to get to where he's at from being undrafted.
Yeah.
And, again, started as a special teamer. That's how most guys make it, right? Guy at Temple, Sean Bradley, kind of waiting in the wings there. He's been on punt. Trey Burton. I played with Trey at Florida. Trey was one of the most dynamic athletes I've ever played with.
He's a quarterback, man.
And played running back, played wide receiver, played tight end at Florida.
Yeah.
Punt returner. He plays punt and kickoff for his first 3-4 years with the Eagles. They had really good special teams then. They won a Super Bowl. He got paid. And he had some issues, but still had success in Chicago. But no, that's how you make it in this league. No one comes in and starts right away. It's so hard. It's a grown man's league, and you're coming out of college where you're 21, 22. You need to cut your teeth on special teams, and then your moment happens, and you have to be ready for it. Zach Ertz went down, and Trey came in. I guess I would think it was the Rams game when Carson got hurt. He had a bunch of catches, and then he broke the market as a tight end. So I digress. We're all over the place to start, but it's hard to make it in this league. And it's super impressive, what the Eagles have done with their team and their roster and how they replenished it, and guys get signed, and now guys have to step up and do it again.
Yeah. Colin, when I heard we were going to be talking to you today, I was like, this is the perfect storm. I'm filling in for Jody Mack. I know Colin a little bit. I can't wait to ask him this question. This is we talk about silly season on social media. This is don't be an idiot season if you're an NFL player. This is the space between the OTAs. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. The space between OTAs and the space between training camp. What gets said by the head coach, by the position coaches, by the GM, the owner, whoever it might be? Is it as simple as, all right, guys, you're young, you have money, and you got nothing to do for like 90 days. Don't be an idiot. Like, what gets said at this period of time? We're already seeing a couple of things in the NFL, but is there anything that gets said, any message from the higher-ups in the locker room about this downtime, this silly season this don't be an idiot time, what gets said?
Well, there's a couple things to unpack here. First, I think the schedule's botched. I think we should have a longer off season when the season's over, and we should come in a month later. So this period is a shorter period of time.
Okay.
Because you're gone for like a big block of time now, 6 weeks. And then you come back and you have to restart everything. We did it the COVID year and had success. We came in a little earlier, like mid-July, and then we picked things up and rolled through. So I think this should be a shorter window, personally. I think it's going to help with injuries. It's going to help with off-the-field issues. It's going to help with playbook retention. So that's the first thing I would change. Secondly, what's communicated? Exactly what you're saying. There's a team meeting at the end of mandatory minicamp, usually the last day of mandatory minicamp, if it's going well, and usually everything's going well. They say, hey, no practice today. The night before, an operations guy will give you the elbow and say to the 2 or 3 guys that like to have a good time and ring me, not saying I was or was not that guy. They would say, hey, no practice tomorrow. Have a good time tonight. Okay, great. The guys will go out, tear it up. Almost like an end of the, I'm not even saying it has to be like a big party, but it would just be something to get together, go to dinner, knowing that tomorrow, hey, listen, the summer is over. Then you'd have a meeting that Thursday, say at the end of minicamp. Guys, we need to be dialed in. We need to stay out of trouble. I'll never forget Ben McAdoo, one of my favorite coaches of all time. I hated him when I was with the Giants. He crushed me. You can't catch. You can't stay on sides. You can't block. Why are you here? And I was so tired one time. I caught a ball in the flat, and I turned up, and I tried to smoke this corner. Ended up, hit me good or whatever. I was so tired. I'm like, I'm not running out of bounds. I'm just going to fall into this guy and get tackled and go to the next play. He's like, who do you think you are? This ripping me. I was like, man, I hate this guy. So Coach Roll interviewed him. I saw he interviewed him in Carolina. I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be horrendous for me this year. Ended up being one of my favorite coaches of all time, and really misunderstood from the public eye about how good of a football coach that guy is. As a genius. I loved him. Absolutely loved him. That's a side story. I know I'm rambling on, but when we were with the Giants, I was there 2017, and Ben's really I'm not going to say what his 3 words are, but to stay out of trouble with, but it's burgers, beers, and something else. You need to stay away from it. And if you mix all 3 of them, you are going to get in trouble. Something's going to happen. You can have all 3. You pick one. So long story short, we came back and no one got in trouble that offseason, and we had a brand new pair of Jordans in our locker. I still have those Jordans. I never wore them. They're mint condition. So long story
put those
short,
on eBay, Colin.
Yeah, I'll wait a little bit. All the guys in Carolina are wait a little bit. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but
no, that's great.
A little bit of a gift, a little bit of something. But I would fix the whole structure. I think you could come back later.
So would that be 2 weeks then between OTAs and training camp?
Yeah, I think 2 to 3 weeks is fine.
Okay. All right.
You go home, again, everyone's off July 4, build it up till July 1 and then give everybody off. So then you have just a month. I think it's too long. I think there should be more time off in the off season. Gives more guys time to rehab away, pick where they want to live. And a lot of guys, people don't understand, they don't live in the city that they play in, because you do have a lot of time off. And a guy like me is undrafted. Okay, I don't have a ton of money. I can't just uproot and say I'm going to just buy in Philly when I may get cut tomorrow.
Right.
So long story short, you just buy where you want to live eventually, or you're trying to figure that out, or you're renting or whatever it is. So yeah, it's unique for sure.
Yeah, there's off the field things. I think people, especially with rookies, a lot of fans don't think about that stuff. There's so much upheaval. You're most likely in a different city. You got to find everything. You got to find a place to live. Now the team's going to help, obviously. As simple as finding a place to eat, going out, being comfortable, buying groceries, these little things. And these are very young people. You think about going to a new city at 21, 22. That is something that I think people don't kind of grasp. Jordan Davis was talking about this with us in his second year with all the Georgia guys coming in, Nolan Smith, and he says Jalen Carter, especially because he's had some off-field issues. And he mentioned how he, goes out of his way, gets him out of the hotel room. When they get an apartment, takes them out to dinner, things like that, just to get them a little bit more comfortable. that is one thing that I really think fans don't understand. It's not a video game. These are human beings.
Yeah, it's a great point, John. I think to unpack that, you have to understand as a fan, you don't have to, it's your choice, but something to understand is that where the majority of these players coming from, and what was their childhood growing up? They didn't grow up in Bucks County and Montgomery County. Not a lot of us, right? That we didn't have. Maybe you don't have dual parent. Maybe you don't have a financial advisor that your friend's going to tell you to go with. Maybe you don't have a friend of a friend that's an agent you can go talk to for advice. You're in college, or you grew up maybe in a tougher situation. You end up going to school. You go to a bubble school. You're at the University of Florida. You're at Penn State. You're at West Virginia. You know, you're Temple. The nice thing about Temple is it's pretty real quick. You know what's going on. You know where not to go, not to what to do. You have to make some pretty big boy decisions compared to where I was at Florida, where it was like palm trees and it was like a bubble school. Penn State, right? Like we're at the pool on Fridays. We're here on Saturday. You know, it's a different environment. So then you pop out of that. And then all of a sudden, you went from team everywhere. You're kind of moving with the pack to go eat breakfast. And then you're moving with the pack to go out at night. And you're moving with the pack for Sunday dinner. You know, Easter, you're alone. Say, okay, great. I'm going to my buddy who lives in Gainesville. We're all going to his house. And there's 20 players at the house, right? When you go to the NFL, you're alone. You're by yourself. The team, you know, Jason Kelce, he's got a family to go home to and take care of.
Yeah.
Right. It's much different than like, hey, where are we going to dinner tonight? I struggled with that when I was in Chicago my first year. Got cut from the Giants, emergency appendectomy. Week 8, Zach Miller did his knee. If anybody remembers, almost lost his leg. And then I went in for a workout. I was on the practice squad. I signed. John Fox was last year in Chicago. I think Mike Glennon was the quarterback, and Mitch was a rookie. And I'm old. Mark Sanchez was the practice squad quarterback. I thought Mark was the most accurate quarterback under 20 yards I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't think he could throw it more than that at that point of his career, but he was money. We had a great little practice squad. It was funny. But at the time,
you never saw Sam Bradford. You had to see Sam, man.
No, I know Sam. Trey Burton. Woof. Trey Burton raved about him. Yeah. But so you know, I would go back to the hotel. I'm like, man, what are we doing tonight? Like, what's going on? Where's dinner? Because that's in college. It's like that every night. You're just in this routine. And you get to the NFL, like you're saying, John. You're by yourself, really.
Yeah.
And you have more time. And people realize, like, I have a media company. I have a podcast. Everyone's like, how do you do that? It's like, I don't know. Like, even if I go in early, I'm in work at 7. I'm in an hour and a half before the first meeting. And I leave late, maybe an hour later. I'm there till 5:30. Like, I get home at 6. I don't know. I record a show for 30 minutes. Like, instead of watching a Netflix episode, it's really not a lot going on. I don't have kids. So it's, you have more time than you think, and it's a great point, John. Where am I going to eat? What's my routine? And then your second, third year, you see it out of players on the field. Yeah. I firmly believe it. You become a man pretty quick. You have to make some sacrifices. You have to change how you do things before. So,
coaches usually say the biggest leap in players is from year 1 to year 2. I've talked to a lot of coaches. I think a lot of it has to do with comfort. I really do.
It's a great point.
Just
and the pro days and all that stuff, your college career ends and you are right with an agent and you are off to train right away. Mm-hmm. You know, you have a bowl game, say your bowl game's late, say it's after Christmas. You don't have a break. I went right to Atlanta, trained there for 6 weeks, and then trained at Temple for 2, and then did the pro day. And then all of a sudden you have like a week break, and then there's the draft, and then boom, you're in minicamp. So all your local workouts, that rookie year is brutal. Those guys don't have any time off. So yeah.
Yeah, I want to mention, yes, Not For Long Media. You do a great job with at your media company. And then you mentioned, you know, not everybody has that fallback or whatever. You know, not everybody also has a mom that runs a lingerie store. So, you know, it's the give and the, you know, it's the give and the take of it all.
You know what? She's a beast, man. She's got 20 stores. They're not all lingerie. You know, they're all over. She's got like a half, and then she just acquired the original Fudge Kitchen. So, yeah, there's a lot there. She's doing a lot, man. She's about to open some more stores down here in Annapolis, Maryland. There's a lot going on.
You're a born hustler, born of hustlers, my friend. You guys, the Thompson family, they're all over the place, man. I do want to ask you this because we were just talking about blocking linebackers. All right, to put it back on the football field here, we're talking about blocking a guy like Nakobe D. Now, the Eagles officially list him at 5'11", 231, obviously the Georgia product. And we were talking about a guy like TJ Edwards, better build. John was talking about how he really worked on his body to become a more physical downhill type of linebacker. that seems to be going the way of the dodo in the NFL nowadays, where guys are looking for more that guys that were almost free safeties 10 years ago are now linebackers. So when you look at Nakobe Dean, what is your scouting report of him? And as a tight end that blocked plenty of linebackers, how would you approach blocking a guy like Nakobe Dean versus a guy like TJ Edwards?
So, John, when you shook your head there, you're saying that height and weight is not correct?
No. Nakobe is not 231.
What would you say is that?
I'm going to say 218.
Okay. Yeah. So he drinks a gallon of water and they weigh him in and, early in OTAs. No,
a little bit under 220.
How you're addressing the block, I think people, the one thing to understand in the blocking game is obviously what you're blocking for, who you're blocking for, what's the scheme. If it's a downhill run play where the ball's hitting the A gap or it's a tackle for loss, you got to take them stripe on stripe right down the middle. If it's some sort of toss scheme or it's some sort of bounce play or outside zone, you need to know where the back is, because that's really going to help your block. Like all these pancake blocks you see in the NFL, no one ever just picks anybody up and slams someone down like high school. They just know leverage and they know where the back is. That's where these things end up. And the defensive end or the backer gets a little overextended, and then all of a sudden you see Jason Kelce dump somebody on their head. Well, the linebacker's saying either I go back door and then it hits for a touchdown, or I just got to get ran over here and take a bullet so it only hits for 20 yards. So there's a lot of that too. To answer your question is, you need to know who you're blocking, but really you need to know who you're blocking for. So for the speed guys, you need to take up space right away. You need to get on them, because if they get in space and they start wiggling you around, it's disadvantage offensive player. Now you can't cut either unless you're inside the tackle box. So, but for the bigger boys, you just got to button up and take them just right down the middle, because it hurt. I mean, it hurts. It's a different beast. You got to really get on them. But that's the old school way. I mean, I remember playing in college. All the linebackers were 250, 245. They were all my weight. I'm 255, 260. So now they're all smaller because they got to be able to flex out and guard the guy in the slot too. And the guy in the slot's a tight end now who runs a 4-4, and the game's changed that way. Or a Ricardo running back in man-to-man coverage. So, for the bigger guys, you got to really take them stripe on stripe. For the smaller guys, you got to play in space with them and try to take away, their speed.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this pendulum effect in this league, Colin. Usually when something goes one way, then it sort of comes back the other way and people start zigging, like Howie says, when others are zagging. When you have 219-pound linebackers, Nicholas Morrow used to be a safety in college. He's a bulked up linebacker. Why not play a fullback extra and say, you know what, if you're going to put 220-pound guys, I'm going to just, why nobody does it? Is it just, it's too easy to throw the ball? The margin of error too small.
Yeah. It's a great debate, John. Like the fullback, right? Like you want to line up in 22 personnel and run the ball. Well, is your team built that way financially? I think that's another thing that people don't talk about. Like, okay, I'm paying my receiver this. I'm paying my tight end this. I don't pay him for 22 personnel running power up somebody.
Yeah.
I don't. I pay him to create mismatches one-on-one in the run game, in the pass game. RPOs now change the game crazy. Like I'm coaching in Lower Cape May Regional High School still. I've been doing it 5 years virtually. I absolutely love it. And we're putting these RPOs in, and you send these RPOs from college in, and it's like, how do you play defense? Like literally they're running counter, and the linemen are 5 yards downfield, and the guy's pulling it out and throwing a post because the safety's playing the run game and counter. It's not even football anymore, really. I'm not saying, I'm pissed off. I'm just saying it's a new version of the game. So the pendulum swung to where all these high school coaches were dynamic, and then all the college coaches picked it up, and now you see it bleeding into the NFL. It works bottom up instead of top down when it comes to creativity in the league from a coaching standpoint. So no, it's a great point. I mean, listen, it's hit or miss, because it's kept me alive in this league where teams want to still run the ball and run duo, and it's 3rd and 1, and we're going to run the football. And some of the rookies can't do it. Some of the younger tight ends can't do it. So it's kept me alive, and my phone is stayed somewhat relevant because these rookies can't do it. They play in a spread offense. So it's a great question, John. I don't think it's going to swing back to bigger linebackers, though. I think it's always going to grow out. Like if you're a slow tight end, you move the tackle. If you're a slow receiver, you move the tight end. If you're a safety that moves okay, well, become a linebacker and move great, i.e. Hassan Reddick. Hassan played DB at Temple. I saw Hassan. And then all of a sudden I was like blocking in practice one day at like 190 pounds. Like, who's this guy? And then 30 pounds later.
I see Hassan Reddick stretching next to Jordan Davis, and it's like, ooh, it's
not that big.
Yeah.
It's not that big.
No.
He's explosive and strong and tough. And yeah, we missed him in Carolina this year. I said it on the show before we were going to miss him. And man, you saw what he did in Philly.
Yeah. You saw him after his mom got him that meal plan. That's to you, man.
Correct.
That's what went down. Real quick, the Eagles are depending on two rookies, defensively speaking, going into this year, and Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. More so, Jalen Carter. He's got to go in there. He's going to fill the role of a guy like Javon Hargrave and be a big anchor in the middle of that defensive line. Nolan Smith is another guy they're going to be depending on, but he's got a little bit more of a curve because the Eagles are pretty well covered in terms of getting after the quarterback. Obviously, 70 sacks last season was pretty good. But when you look at guys that are young coming into the league, you talked about your experience undrafted versus guys that were, first rounders. These two guys are first rounders. So when you're a first rounder, you're looked at as being depended on to make some kind of a difference. What type of advice would you give younger guys breaking into the league that know from jump they're going to have a heavy weight on their shoulders to help that team?
Great question. I think the best advice I got was sit with the right people at lunch and breakfast every day. And you're really going to learn about a lot of things in life that are going to impact you on the field. So I was fortunate with the Giants. I heard that knowledge. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit with Justin Pugh. I'm going to sit with Eli Manning. I'm going to sit with Justin Tuck would be in the building time to time. Former OC Mura being there. Michael Strahan be there. I'm like, I'm just going to do it. Because you're a rookie, you want to be comfort. You want to go sit with the rookies, a couple of the undrafted guys maybe you went to school with, a couple of guys you got recruited with, and you went separate ways, but you know each other, and you want comfort and comfort and comfort, and you're seeking comfort because the playbook's a lot. The stress is a lot. I got to find a place to live. Hopefully I don't get cut. My best friend on the team's undrafted. Maybe he's getting cut. We were supposed to live together and split the rent. Now he's leaving. So like every day I tried, we had the same breakfast table. It was like Christian McCaffrey, Sam Darnold, like guys that are overachievers, guys that really want to do it at a high level. That would be my advice, is pick who you eat your meals with, because all the rest of it takes care of itself, and it is what it is. And you'll be fine. There's going to be games you play bad. There's going to be games you play well. There's going to be practices where you literally can't even walk because you're so sore. And there'll be practices where you're absolutely balling out. That's just football. So, yeah, I would say this. You got to pick your friends, pick who you sit with on the bus, because if you just walk the normal walk of whatever this player is, this fifth or sixth or undrafted round pick, you may not end up where you want to be. You need to surround yourself with the guys that are elite-minded, and I think that will really have a great ripple effect into your personal life and then your playing career.
You mentioned a guy there. I want to talk about it a little, Colin. Being in locker rooms over the years, there are certain guys that, even NFL players are in awe of. Like, and when I was in Minnesota, Randy Moss is one of those guys. Michael Vick was one of those guys. Now, in a league that devalues running backs, I get that with Christian McCaffrey. Christian's the guy. Nobody's devaluing him. He's getting $16 million a year, whatever it is. When he was coming out, I was talking to a couple different scouts, and they said he ran routes better than receivers coming out of college in Stanford, and he runs like a top tier running back. And being his teammate, he's one of those guys, right? He's one of those guys that other NFL players say, "Wow, that guy's good."
I'm sitting here. I know you're going to ask me, so I'm sitting here trying to think of some stories over the years to really paint the picture of what Christian's mindset is. And to answer your question, John, yes. Everybody looks at this guy and says, "Who is he? What is this? He's just different." And I try to explain it to people all the time. People always ask me about him, right? There's nobody I've ever played with that has the elite talent and then the undrafted walk-on type work ethic to match it. We had the debate last year, like, who are those guys? Like Aaron Donald. He's a freak of nature, don't get me wrong, but he's a defensive tackle. He's not 6'7", 300 pounds and moving like he is. Aaron's like 275. He's still a freak, don't get me wrong. He's the best player in the NFL. My point is, like, who is freakishly gifted and who works freakishly hard? It's a very fine line there. There's not many of those people on the planet.
Yeah.
So
we were talking about that with Jalen Hurts, but he doesn't have that, Jalen's great. The work ethic,
closer to that category than most,
but closer than most.
But no one's Christian. I mean, he caught a ball the other day, John. This season, I'll never forget it. Week 1 or 2 at practice. He was running to the pylon. He's running a flat route from out of the backfield. So he's going left to right. And the ball was like at his back. So usually you open up your hip and you catch the ball and go for the pylon. He didn't turn around. He caught the ball behind his back. And it was very nonchalant. And he just made it look really easy. I'm like, whoa, dude's different. Here's an example about Christian's mindset. You know why Christian went to Stanford?
It's a smart kid.
Nope.
You like their colors? I don't know.
No.
Like trees? I don't know.
People say, his mom and dad went there.
Yeah, Ed went there. So
that's right. Ed became,
I think his mom played soccer there too. Yeah. No, he went to Stanford because he wanted to prove to people that he could be a power running back. Think about that.
Yeah,
that's why he
run
went
the
there.
Football. Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to Oregon. I'm not going to these other places. I want to prove to people that I can run between the tackles. That is Christian McCaffrey. Wow. That's how dialed he is. Don't let him fool you. He knows everything, and everything anybody's ever said about him, about not being a running back and being a wide out. And so he listen.
Yeah.
He's a different mindset. He's a different work ethic, and he's a freak of nature. When the 49ers were down to their 5th quarterback, it was going to be Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, and he's probably pissed about his performance. Like, that's the type of he'll know every offensive. He'll take quarterback reps this year, even though they have a 3rd quarterback, just to say I can do it. That's where he's at. He's the perfect fit there. And I brought a guy up earlier, and someone for everyone to watch here. Sam Darnold. Watch him this year. I made an opinion the other day. I've talked.
I wish that now I'm glad Mark is here, but I wish Jody was here because I said
watch
Sam Darnold's going to be the starting quarterback in San Francisco.
I don't think Purdy plays a snap this year.
Wow.
I'm with you. Oh, clip this, Xander. Clip this for Jody.
Sam Darnold is one of the most gifted quarterbacks I've ever played with in my entire life. And it's a shame. Everyone says, not a fair shake here and there. The guy's had a lot of unlucky just ball bounced the wrong way for him a lot of times. Now, you control a lot of as a player, but Sam is another guy who works his ass off, who's a really elite gifts too. Probably the most gifted quarterback they have in that building when it comes to just like running and throwing. Sam's fast, which is people don't understand, and he can really throw, and it's the perfect system for him.
And they're going to win games. So my whole thought process is, if Brock isn't ready because he tore his UCL,
there's no way he's going to be ready.
There's no way he's going to be ready. So San Francisco is 6-0 or 5-1 with Sam Darnold. You really going to bench the guy? I'm not. No stinking way for a guy coming off UCL surgery. Ain't happening.
Of all the people, of all the organizations that can handle that, they can handle it. Meaning the off the field, the questions, they have the GM, they have the head coach that can handle that. They have a mature quarterback room of all of them are going to be saying the right things. And that team is like, pick a leader.
Yeah.
There's a 50 of them. And that's probably best roster in the NFL.
You're in Philadelphia. You're in Philly, Colin.
Yeah. Well, it's probably, listen, the thing about that team is there's literally blue chippers everywhere. Like,
no, San Francisco's very talented. Very talented.
They have like 20 of the top. They have like, let's say top 100 players. They probably have 20 of them.
Oof.
I mean, Trent Williams, Bosa, Warner.
And they got Javon Hargrave now.
Hargrave, running back, Christian, Curtis Samuel.
Yeah.
Debo Samuel, excuse me.
Yeah.
So,
just elite.
Yes.
Just elite.
Birds are loaded, though. I know everyone listening.
Eagles are loaded. Eagles are loaded. And those are the 2 best teams in the NFC. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah, probably top. Honestly, 2 of the top 5 teams in the league, right?
Yeah. At Colin Thompson TU, the great Colin Thompson. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. Not for Long Media. He's got his podcast. Make sure you listen to that. Notforlongmedia.com does a tremendous job. Just very insightful about the NFL in general, obviously, because he played in the league and he continues. We're still getting calls, right? We're still getting nibbles.
Yeah, we're getting nibbles. It's all, I'm in that old tight end group now where, I was in it. I was the rookie looking up at these guys saying, man, these guys are, they're about to take my job. I can't get it done on a consistent basis. Why are they bringing these old heads in? They bring 2 or 3 of them in for a workout. They keep one of them, ends up playing, over a handful of games.
Now, would you consider playing spring football next year, or
I would. I'm not opposed to it. I had a couple calls this year with a couple different teams. They called and offered me opportunities, but mentally and physically, I was not ready for it. When you're going into those leagues, you need to be all in and ready to go. I have a ton of respect for those leagues. That's why I'm in the NFL. I played in the XFL. I played in the AF. It's not like an ego thing. I was dealing with a few injuries last year. I need to make sure I was ready to go because I need to get my pension. I need to play a couple more games in the NFL, and that's the goal. So I'll be fine. The phone's ringing still. It's mostly, hey, training camp stuff, in season, probably 10 teams I'm on a list for. So that's good. I'm okay with it. I know where I stand. And there's as you guys know, last year in Carolina, I got hurt. Ian Thomas got hurt. Our other tight end got hurt 3 days in a row. We went from 6 guys in our room to 3. And they had a guy come in off the street, Izzo, and we had a joint practice with the Patriots who literally never saw our playbook before and had to practice. So you got to be ready to go. I mean, it's crazy. I never forget. Ryan Izzo played for the Patriots actually, but
yeah.
I was like, I don't know how this guy's doing this. This guy's an absolute stud, but like just right off the street and right into joint practice.
Jeez, man.
Physical time of your life. So yeah, we'll see. I'll be ready.
All right. Awesome. We know you will be, my man. Colin Thompson, make sure you guys give him a follow. You heard him from Johnny Mack right there, and also Not for Long Media as well. Colin, great catching up, brother. Thank you.
And say hi to Sydney.
You guys are the best. Always been amazing to me in my career. So thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Great seeing you, brother. Colin Thompson joining us here on Birds 365. So what do we go to break and we come back and say goodbye, John? Is that how this works?
That's how it works. Got to put a bow on the show, as Jody would say.
Bow on the show. All right. Be back in a few.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.